when you look at the universities, the staff and the students in the university over Sri Lanka, 85% of the students and the staff in Sri Lanka are Sinhalese, and that includes two Tamil universities, the Eastern University in Batticaloa and the Jaffna University. Then when you look at the public services all across Sri Lanka, 95% of the government servants serving in the Sri Lankan government service are Sinhalese. That apart, when you look at the admission to the law colleges in Sri Lanka, an overwhelming 99% of students who are enrolled into the law colleges are Sinhalese. Then further going, if you look at the diplomatic service of Sri Lanka, as of date, there's only one Tamil diplomat, and 95% of those serving in Sri Lankan diplomatic service are Sinhalese. Then when you look at the composition of the armed forces of Sri Lanka, 99.5% of the soldiers in the exclusive Sinhala army are Sinhalese. Then further, if you go on and see what has happened during the course of the civil war, during the last phases of the civil war, 10% of those who were put into the Manik farm camps, that is the 330,000 people who were enslaved for more than 3 years, exclusively all of them were Tamils. That apart, in the north and the east, the victims of the civil war were all Tamils. 90,000 war widows were created by the Sinhalese government, and the indiscriminate use of multi-barrel rocket launchers to fire at civilians took place only on the Tamils and not against the Sinhalese. Not a single Sinhala area was aerially bombed by the Sri Lankan armed forces. It was exclusively Tamil areas that were aerially bombed. The mass graves, which are popular in Sri Lanka, the three famous mass graves that were excavated, all the three of them exclusively belong into the Tamil areas, and all of a sudden the Presidential Commission, in order to suppress the truth, completely closed down the investigations into these mass graves. The checkpoints that were there till recently, all these checkpoints were only in the Tamil areas and not a single one in the Sinhala areas. And there was a severe restriction of movement during the civil war only in the Tamil areas, whereas the Tamils living in Vavuniya were forced even to take a pass whenever they had to come out of their homes to move within their own cities. That apart, like living as a foreigner, whenever a Tamil had to come to the southern districts for health or educational purpose, they had to get a sponsorship letter from somebody in the south. That apart, all the religious places that were bombed and destroyed belong to the Tamils in the form of temples and churches. There is not a single instance of a Buddhist vihara or a stupa being bombed by the Sinhala armed forces. So I can go on with such examples to prove that whatever suffering the Tamils have undergone, it's exclusively limited only to the Tamils, not to the Sinhalese. And who were the perpetrators? The perpetrators were exclusively the Sinhala armed forces. As Father has already mentioned, we are running short of time. I want to end with
good news that we have time till 1 o'clock. We can go on a little bit more.
If that is the case, then yes, to cut down the population of the Tamils immediately after the war, we have instances of the Sinhala medical services using Jadel, a tablet meant for control the birth, implanting the tablet in order to control the birth of Tamils. So here the Genocide Convention very clearly states the qualification to be a victim of genocide, to prevent birth in a particular community. So here that particular nationality is exclusively the Tamil nationality. That apart, the only community in Sri Lanka that had to face the wrath of being victims of chemical bombings was the Tamil community. The Tamil community was the only community that had to face the cluster bombs during the course of the war. The Tamils had to live under a regime that had forced a ban, an economic ban on 54 essential items right from the year 1995 till the end of the war. These essential items included biscuits meant for children, bandages, cotton, sanitary napkins which were of day-to-day use. So in that sense, all these restrictions were only in the Tamil areas and not in the singular areas. So in that sense, when you look at even the rape victims, rape was used as a weapon of war by the singular soldiers. Indiscriminately, Tamil girls were rendered even to this day. As we were discussing on the checkpoints became places where Tamil girls passing through these checkpoints were taken inside the army camps, raped and buried. Nobody knows the exact number of those who are missing. Then comes the issue of torture. All those who were detained and tortured in the famous Joseph camp, in the famous 4th floor, in Velikada magazine and Busa prison. Exclusively all those who had to undergo these forms of torture were the Tamils. Then further going, we have to see what were the political packages offered to the Tamils. From the beginning, that is 1948 onwards, till the present president, they have been only promising a political solution, but then they have never delivered. The reason being, every singular politician wants to please only the Sinhalese because they see Tamils as aliens in their land. So in that sense, today, if we look at the numbers, 146,679 Tamils are unaccounted. Not a single Sinhalese has had the courage or the guts to acknowledge that they have committed a crime, the crime of genocide. So in that sense, here when 146,679